Okay, welcome back to my channel, Maybe Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we are going to be doing a very long overdue TBR, or more list of a pile of possibilities, I think is probably a better word for it. In the last couple months adjusting to family life, I haven't really been on the usual monthly TBR schedule that you've seen on my channel kind of since I started. I'm a very kind of list-based personality. I like having that kind of structure, but it hasn't really matched my life or my schedule recently, so it's been kind of weird for me to be off of that. In the new year, I may try something different, but I figured let's do one last attempt, one last effort to kind of try this structure and see if it could work for me now. So I'm going to do a pile of possibilities from, it's now already the middle of November, so from the middle of November to the end of December. These are the books that are kind of on my radar and in thinking of getting to. Although I am under no illusion that I'm going to read them all. I'm going to hopefully read a good chunk of these because I do think that I am finding space for reading in my life again. I'm choosing to do it over other things in the free time that I do have, and hopefully I can get, a good chunk of these read. The first one, though, is one that I am currently reading and will definitely finish before moving on to anything else, and that is The Arc of a Lion's Pride, which is the fourth book in the Drowned Kingdom saga, which is by P.L. Stuart, my co-host over on Page Chewing, so I'm sure you've seen him around my channel before. As I mentioned, it's an arc of the fourth book in his series, so I can't really say much, but I was very lucky to receive an early copy, and I'm enjoying my time with it. The prose is extremely elevated, and it's something that I really enjoy about his writing. I've had to look up a couple words along the way. It's a different reading experience than I usually have, and I'm thoroughly enjoying that difference. So yeah, I'll be finishing that one first before anything else. Then the other book that I will definitely be prioritizing before I pick up new books is Legacy of Brick and Bone. Bless Krystle's heart, she gave this book to me ages ago, or did I purchase it? No, I think she provided an arc for me. Yep, ages ago, before it was released. It has since very much been released, and I've been reading it for a really long time. It's a chunker of a book, so I didn't really expect to read it super quickly, but I love Krystle's writing, and I want to spend more time with it. It keeps getting kind of pushed to the wayside while I have to prioritize other things that I've committed to, but I haven't committed to anything in December, in the latter half of November. So I'm really looking forward to prioritizing this book and making it my main read, because I think I'm about 40% of the way through, and I'm just, it's so good. It's so good. And I can't wait to finish it up. Next on this list are the Spiffbone 9 finalists. They've all been chosen for the competition. There's 10 finalists, obviously. And one of those has been chosen already by my group, so I've already read that book. But there are 9 others that I have to read before, I don't remember what month it is. See, I'm such a good judge. I don't remember when the deadlines are, but it is early next year when you have to finish reading the finalists in order to put in your vote. So I'm going to start with, I think, Murder at Spindle Manor. That just sounds like something really up my alley right now. I could really use a little murder mystery vibes in my life, so I think I'm going to pick that one up. And also The Fall Is All There Is. I don't know the cover. I don't know anything about it, but the cover has drawn me in from the beginning. So I think I might start with those two. But basically, within the next couple of months, there's always going to be a Spiffbone 9 finalist kind of going in the background. Now, the next one is going to look very familiar for those of you who've been around my channel for a while, but I finally think I'm in the mood for this book again. And that is The Helm of Midnight. I don't remember who I was watching. I was watching someone, and they had a review of this book, and they loved it. And the way that they talked about it hit all of these points that I love. The combination of like murder mystery, whodunit, dark magic. And when I read the beginning of this book, it's kind of a meme on my channel at this point, but when I read the beginning of this book, I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was a lot more in-depth and detailed, and I just kind of wasn't in the right mindset to take that on at the time, so I put it down, and I notoriously have not picked it back up, despite numerous promises to do so. But I do think that what I remember about this book, those detailed parts to it, and the background kind of murder mystery aspect, really seems like it's gonna, not murder mystery, but whodunit aspect is really going to hit the spot for me. I haven't done a summary of this book in a while on my channel, so if you don't know, this book is about a helm that is imbued with the spirit of a serial killer, and then that helm gets stolen, and the serial killer's spirit gets released. And there's a lot of intricate magic about how things are imbued with spirits that I wasn't, expecting, but I'm very excited to get into that when I pick this back up. You'll notice a lot of these kind of first books I'm going to mention are mostly physical books that I own, because I did have a goal to read through my physical TBR, and things did not happen with that list. So I'm hoping to kind of make a last-ditch effort to kind of read a good chunk of my physical books at the end of the year, considering I am home more often than I was before. So like my special editions that I refuse to take out of the house, I could technically read those now. And that leads us to our next one, which is the Bone Ships. This is the beautiful broken binding edition. So this is not one that I feel comfortable leaving my house reading, but considering, like I said, I'm home more often, this might be the perfect time. And as soon as I got these editions, just the vibes of them and everything that I've heard about the series, I think I'm going to love it. It is a 5-star prediction. And I wanted to pick it up right away, but I had other like Spiffbo and other commitments that I'd committed to. That's a weird way to say that, but I had other things I needed to read. So I wasn't able to pick this up when the mood struck. So I'm hoping that mood is still there, and maybe I can get to this one in the next month and a half. In a very similar vein is The Ninth Reign. I've had this from the Broken Binding again for a really long time. I feel like this is a series that is kind of an underdog in the fantasy community, and the fact that I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, but the people that do seem to really, really like it. I don't know much about it. At one point I did, but I don't remember the details. But I do think that it has like griffins, and I think there's animal companions in here as well, which I love in my fantasy. So anyway, I've heard amazing things, like I said, from those who actually have read it. I haven't really heard any negative thoughts from someone who's already picked it up, so that's a really good sign. And this is just like the Bone Ships. I have time to read it at home, hopefully, fingers crossed, and I'd really like to get to it. This next one would have been perfect for spooky season, but alas, it has passed us, and I didn't get to it. But it is one that I'm very excited to get to, because we actually had a page-doing episode with the collaborators for this, and that is The Anatomy of Fear. This is an amazing group of 12 authors. I can read them out: Trudy Skies, Tim Hardy, L.L. McRae, Bjorn Larson, Lee C. Conley, Jacob Sannox, Krystle Matar, B.A. Bellick, Sean Crow, H.L. Tinsley, Ryan House, and Zama Akhtar. All of these names are heavy hitters in the indie world, and they've all come together to write this anthology, which is a fantasy horror anthology, a collection of short stories. And basically each author picked a body part and wrote a short story, a horror short fantasy story based on that body part. And after the interview, I'd already backed the Kickstarter before the interview because I knew I wanted to have my hands on this. But after the page-doing interview, I was so hyped to read this. And I am in my short story era. Anyone who's been around my channel for the last couple months knows this. So I think this is going to be one that I pick up really soon. I've heard from the authors that they took really different kind of views on how to write these stories and wrote from different perspectives of horror. I can't wait to get to this because the caliber of all of the authors is so high, and I just think that the prompt is so intriguing, and I have full faith that all of them did something really interesting with it. I'll have that page doing link down below, as always, when I mention videos that I have from page doing. They're always in the description down below. The next book on my TBR is this cute little one that I picked up on a whim in a Japanese bookstore, and I don't know, it just always calls to me, and I think it'd be a really nice palate cleanser between all of these like big fantasy books I've already mentioned, and that is The Cat Who Saved Books. So this is about a boy whose, I think it's uncle, owns a bookshop, and the bookshop gets closed down, but in order to save, let me just read it. I have it here. After the death of his grandfather, Rintaro is devastated and alone. It seems he'll have to close the shop, so the bookshop. Then a talking tabby cat called Tiger appears and asks Rintaro for help. The cat needs a book lover to join him on a mission. This odd couple will go on 3 magical adventures to save books from people who have imprisoned, mistreated, and betrayed them. So that sounds just like a cozy adventure vibe that I think, like I said, would be a really nice palette cleanser between other things, and it's so pretty. It's just been staring at me on my shelves for a while, and I'd love to get to it. Now, very much like the Helm of Midnight, this other one will be very familiar to those who've been around my channel. Bet y'all can guess what it was. Haven't seen this in a while, but Moby Dick. He's back. I am in the mood for classics again. I wasn't for a long time. This book has become my very own white whale at this point. I did read, for those of you who don't know, I had a classics reading challenge like last year, I think, that did not go well. I mean, what I read I enjoyed, but I didn't read a lot of them. And Moby Dick was one of the casualties of that. I read this much of it to page 186, and I loved what I read. I was having a great time tabbing it. And then I just hit a wall with it for absolutely no reason. I enjoyed what I read. I was laughing out loud. I was having a great time. And then I just, for the life of me, could not pick this book up. But now it feels right. It feels right. So we'll see. Can I finish this book 2 years after starting it? It'd be nice to end the year with this book finished. That's a lot to ask of myself, but like, could it happen? We'll see. Send your thoughts and prayers. Now this one is, again, a broken binding edition, but this is a bind up, and this is the Pillars of Peace, a trilogy by Tom Dumbrell. We also do have a page chewing episode with him, and he sold me on his series, so I bought the bind up when it came out. And it's beautiful to start, you know, black sprayed edges, and it's got foiling and all of that, as broken binding always does. But this has just been on my my shelf for a long time, and I figured why not kind of put this on the pile of possibilities, put it back on the radar for myself, because when I heard Tom talk about it, I was interested. To be honest, I don't remember all of the details about what this is about, but the catchphrase on the back says, "Dead kings don't wear crowns." The first book is called The Look of a King, the second, No Place for Peace, and the third, Where Heroes Were Born. So this is also, you know, if the mood strikes, it's there. Next up is one that I've had for a really long time on my shelf, and I kind of forgot because it wasn't on my main shelf. And then again in spooky season, I was like, oh, that might work. Too late now, but you know, it's back on my radar, and that is Empire of the Vampire. I love the Nevernight series. I understand it's not for everyone. The narrative voice in that book it's a lot, and so is Mia. But that book just did so much for me as a reader, that series did, when I first read it. So I have a very soft place in my heart for that. I haven't read anything else by Kristoff, though, and I've heard Empire of the Vampire still also has that very, you know, intense narrative voice that either you like it or you don't. But I have heard really good things about the vampires in this series, so I would like to pick this up. I think the second one is coming out sometime soon, so it might be good to know if I like it and whether I should be looking at editions of that or not, because Kristoff always has like 1 million editions, so you know, there is that. But yeah, I don't know, I'd like to get to this eventually. It's not super high priority, but it was sitting on my shelf and I kind of forgot about it, so this is me putting it back on the radar for myself. And the last one of the kind of physical set of books that I want to talk about in this video is The Last Argument of Kings by Joe Abercrombie. This is the third book in the first trilogy by Abercrombie, and the first law series. I don't know why that was so hard for me to get out. But the first book was not my favorite. I was a bit disappointed just because I had so much hype going in. But everyone told me just at least give the second book a try, and you know, it'll really pay off. And it did. I loved the second book. I listened to the audiobook, and the narrator is top notch. He is fantastic. So I do think I might go the audiobook route for this because it was just such a good experience with the second one. But I am very excited to see the end of this book because I loved how the plot threads all came together at the end of the previous one. Why can't I think of the name of the second book? I have it right here. Let me just look. Before They Are Hanged. There we go. I loved the way that the plot threads all came together at the end of Before They Are Hanged, so I'm very excited to see what he does with those plot threads now in this book. So yeah, I might go the audiobook route with this, but this is the last one kind of on the physical TBR. Now when I say physical TBR, I mean not ebooks, because of course those count. I'm just my toxic trait is that I feel like I don't own the book unless I can touch it, which is just, it's not true, but that's how it is. So I do have a bunch of other ebooks here that I would really like to get to. One of those being Sons of Darkness. This is one that has been on my radar since even before it was released, and I'm still sitting here not having read it in the year of our Lord, 2023. Not only is the cover absolutely stunning, but it's based on the Mahabharata, which I love mythology and folklore, and give me a fantasy series based off of that. I am absolutely there. I have this on my Kindle. It's been waiting to be read, and it's one that I would like to get to sooner rather than later, as I say about all of these. Very much similar to that is An Altar on the Village Green. This is a horror fantasy and it's a novella, so it's a lot quicker to read, so I have a feeling I'll probably get to this one in between some of the bigger reads, kind of like The Cat Who Saved Books. But this came to my attention after Zamo mentioned it. I love his fantasy horror books. You can see behind me the Gunmetal God series. I love it, and he said that this book was one of the huge inspirations for him. So I downloaded it like right after that, and I just haven't read it. So this one is also there waiting to be read. Next is Dragon Mage, which I did start reading the first chapter, I think. I don't know why I did that and then didn't continue because I really enjoyed what I had read. It also kind of has that classic fantasy feel, and I love me a dragon, so I don't know. I'm in the mood for this one. I feel like I'm really in the mood for this one. In a similar vein is Of Darkness and Light, the second book in the Bound and the Broken series. I read the first one, which I really did enjoy, and then I read the novella The Fall, which blew my mind. It was so good. Ryan was so in his bag when he wrote that book, or wrote that novella, so I'm very excited to continue and see how Cahill kind of branches off and does his own thing with the series, which is what I heard happens in Of Darkness and Light. The first one's very, classic fantasy, and then he kind of branches off and does his own thing, so I can't wait to see what he does with that. And finally, the last two. One is from my older TBR, older fantasy TBR. That didn't go as planned this year, as all of my challenges seem not to, but hey, A for effort. But I would like to start reading the Riders of Pern series. I think the first one's Dragonflight. I don't know, I'm just in the mood for dragons. Heard good things about it. It's a classic, so we'll see if I get to it. And then the last one is an urban fantasy series, which is a guilty pleasure of mine, which is the Lux series. I've read the first two, and I had such a fun time with them. Even though it has all the YA tropes I usually hate, some reason they work for me in this series. I don't know why. So the third one, Opal, I don't know, I'm in the mood for something kind of trashy like that. So I wanted to give myself that option as well for the end of the year. That concludes my pile of possibilities for the end of November into December. I'm in a very mood-ready part of my life right now, so maybe I'll just read books I didn't even mention here. But as of making this video, these are the ones that are the most kind of closely on my radar and ones I'd like to pick up. Go ahead and leave a pitch in the comments down below if there's any that you think I should prioritize, ones that aren't on here that you really think should be. I would love to chat with you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that bell. I'd love to have you as part of this community, and I appreciate it. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Jane!